Now, before we get started, I just introduced myself, Jeff Turnbow, and what I believe, if I basically had to summarize what I feel for 2018, I think one of our biggest challenges is basically trying to be unique while integrating all of this advanced technology that we're going to be talking about for the next few days, right? So that can be really challenging. The other thing that I talk about a lot is we are now the broadcast company. You know, Schneider Electric is broadcasting, right? So things have definitely changed in the media world. If you think about it, you determine the audience, many of you determine the production as far as the content, you choose the talent, you choose the distribution, and many of you are choosing how we monetize that information. And then of course you measure that. That's typically just a broadcast company. So it's interesting how that role has changed. So first of all, we want to talk about mastering micro moments. And everyone's kind of aware of this trend, right? So how many of you are wearing a smartwatch? Okay. So basically I had someone just at the mall yesterday that sent me this picture. So as soon as they walked into the mall, and many of you may have seen this, this was one of the first large displays they found. So it's not just Apple that's in this space. You've got Fossil, Garmin, Tag Heuer. They're all developing smartwatches. So we're definitely living in a micro moment technology world. So, speaking of that, basically if you could, Faith, tell us about micro moments within the travel and specifically the vacation space.
Sure thing. Hi everyone, good morning. So in vacation, micro moments are critical because consumers, when they have downtime, that's when they're dreaming phases and they're able to, when they're waiting online or they're having a bad day and they have some extra time commuting, they dream about their vacation and they use mostly their cell phones, but often any other wearables to investigate and dream and plan for their upcoming vacation. So it's critical that us, as their vacation company membership, RCI, Vacation Exchange Company, that we're there for them. We do have a closed market, so just a little bit really quick about RCI, so just to give everybody some context about everything that I'm talking about and how ours is a little different. It is B2C, but we are the largest timeshare company in the world, and how it works is if you buy timeshare at one of 4,000 resorts worldwide, you become a member of RCI, and that enables you to exchange your week for another week. So let's say you own in Orlando, you want to go to Vegas, you could swap it. I could swap with Roseanne, and she could go to Vegas, and I'll go to Orlando, or vice versa. And it's a closed membership. So we don't do any acquisition marketing at this moment for the large brand, RCI, although we do have some smaller open market brands. So we have a closed market. So we use CRM data and retargeting data to make sure on search, all over display, all over the web, that we're there when we know Roseanne, who's our member, is looking for Orlando vacation. So, those micro moments, there might not be booking moments, they're upper funnel moments, but they're critical to making sure we're there during her whole journey. And sometimes we're not always top of mind. They don't have a huge brand budget like Travelocity or some of these other travel brands. So to be able to compete head to head within online when she's taking a look in her 5 minutes is critical to keeping that conversation going.
So Faith, are you able to, in the instance of, let's say Roseanne, are you able to send advertising that Roseanne has expressed interest in, or?
Absolutely. So we use retargeting, straight retargeting, so specific web pages that you looked at, as well as CRM data, knowing what she's done on our website, our internal intent signals, as well as call center, and just knowing about her account. Is she about to expire? So using all the data we have at our fingertips, and not so much at our fingertips, a little harder to get data, but putting that all together to get her that right message at the right time.
Okay, and have you looked into how you can serve her specific ads that are specific, let's say, to these like micro moments as far as like the watches or voice or anything like that?
We haven't really heavily delved into wearables. We are just in the beginning phases of doing a Amazon skill.
Okay,
so
you are
far
starting.
from launched, yes.
Okay. Okay. And Roseanne, can you kind of talk to us a little bit about how you use this in terms of home automation with Schneider?
Sure. So I work for Schneider Electric. We are predominantly an energy management and automation company. And mostly we operate in the B2B space. However, maybe about 10% of our organization focuses on B2C. And I specifically work in our IT division. And a lot of what we produce in that space is power protection equipment, ranging anything that could back up any of your critical equipment, whether it be in your home or home office, all the way up to the largest industrial space in the most far away type of environment. But specifically within our IT division, we do have a product, an uninterruptible power supply, or UPS, called Backups. It's our home product mainly. And we are experimenting with voice in that space. And then on the Schneider Electric side, we also have a new product. You may have heard about it in the home automation space called Wiser. So this is a typical home automation product that will help you synchronize your lights, your shutter controls, for example, your heat, things like that within the home. It is compatible with Amazon Echo and Google Home, those user interfaces, and we are always trying to leverage our alliances that will help us enable that connectivity for specific applications, like the shutter control that I mentioned, as well as with segment partners. For example, we have experimented and reached out to different types of hotel chains. So Faith, we may want to just pay you a visit on that. So.
Okay, good. Any questions around that topic from anyone? Okay, and so in terms of content, obviously with content, we're looking to be more visual and solution focused with our content, showing that authentic emotion in any type of content that we produce, whether it's showing problem solving in video or traditional ads. So talk to us a little bit about the content that you're using currently. Sure, go ahead, Rosie.
Okay. So we have actually done so much with video as well as visual creative in general over the last couple of years that we actually have evolved from your traditional type of agency to now bringing in-house a digital media team that actually sits within my team, within Schneider Electric in the IT division. So we started out using video like probably everybody else does, customer stories, video testimonials. We featured a number of different Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 types of customers there. But because we are a B2B type of, we're speaking to B2B business folks, that we actually have, and our products tend to be kind of technical. So we really, and a lot of times, need to explain the technology or explain the application, explain the offer. And more recently, we've been doing Meet the Expert type of a video series. So where our subject matter experts will actually get out on the video and in a unique way, just explain the technology, explain the application, etc. Whenever we have, for example, one of our officers, our technology officer, for example, might do a very long video, one of the things that we've tended to do to make it more useful is to splice that, let's say, 30-minute video into more bite-sized pieces so we can use it for social messages, for example, or in other types of ways. Anytime we do anything really long, but they tend to be shorter and shorter because of the digital types of applications. Some of the other ways that we use visual creative include things like interactive graphics. So again, we have a number of different types of customers that we speak to as far as audiences go, and we have leveraged interactive graphics, for example, showcasing maybe a retail environment or a healthcare type of situation. We use quizzes, animated quizzes, to make co-location type of topic more interesting and appealing. We also do, we continue to do more and more with videos in different ways. So many of you have probably seen those animated illustrations or those whiteboard videos with a squeaky marker that goes, like that. So we have those, yeah, we have those. But again, because our products tend to be big and bulky and more technical types of solutions, We are currently just getting started with a new product and platform called Sketchfab. And that allows us to do 3D animations across all of our social platforms that we can leverage at things like trade shows, using our social media, incorporate into sales tools, so it's easier for our sales folks that they can just pull up on their tablet or their phone and just show that product in 3D to a customer that they're meeting with. We also have some technology centers located across the world. Within the US, we have a very big facility in St. Louis, so we actually do 360-degree visual tours of those facilities. So these types of facilities have actual cutting-edge equipment that has just most recently been developed. So it allows us to reach a big audience using video in that way. We also do live webinars, broadcasts, and trade shows using an On24 platform. And finally, we leverage virtual reality, so our customers can begin to immerse themselves in the types of environments that they operate in and see how our equipment can actually help them. So the list just keeps growing, so I want to give Faith a turn.
I mean, you are literally covering
Yes.
almost everything possible
Yes.
in that space. And to bring that production team inside the company had to be kind of a major moment for the company. So were you a part of that transition? And can you tell me a little bit about or tell the audience a little bit about that transition, how difficult or challenging it was?
Yeah, specifically it happened over time, so it didn't happen all at once. So for example, we started out a few years ago with one particular design engineer that had some really creative abilities, and so we just kind of borrowed him from the other team whenever we needed him. And then, we got a few more people involved over time, and then, most recently it's now like 5 or 6 people, and we just hired 2 new kids right out of school to help us with the latest types of technology out there. So it's definitely something that happened over time.
Right. But it sounds like you're doing so much with a fairly nimble team,
Yes.
in a group.
Yeah, they're great.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Faith, you had mentioned to me that your team is heavily involved in video as far as content. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, sure. So with regard to all of our digital advertising, including email, we found that, of course, video outperforms, static images and copy, up to 5 times. So the key is, to Roseanne's point, you could do something with the greatest production value all the way down to an animated GIF, right? So the story, the video, or the motion and the pictures tell the story the best. And we have vacation, that's like perfect for video, right? So we want to leverage the beautiful places and make it more experiential, more of the experience, can't get that word out right now. And really drive, bring those members in and, remind them of all these beautiful places that they can go or have been to. So what we're in the midst of doing is trying to understand through testing, a quick, easy animated GIF, does that perform just as well as a more expensive, more full production versus UGC? We do have a call out to all of our members to give us their user-generated content, and we reuse that as well. And we use a company called Shoot that allows us to capture our members' videos and pictures all over the web, and they automatically get the permissions for that. So using that partner, we're able to do live feeds on our site of pictures and videos of our members, and we leverage those in creative as well as creating it in-house as well.
So that's interesting. As 2 worldwide companies, you still use less polished, I would say, maybe production qualities as well in your content. So not everything is highly produced. Would that be true?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And the members, this day and age, people want authenticity. They want to know that this is real. This isn't smoke and mirrors. This isn't just some good lighting and some CGI that's going on here. They want to know, what is it really like? Who are the real people? What are they really experiencing? So I think, that UGC and the things that are more authentic are going to be the things that resonate the best, especially when it comes to vacation.
Sure. It's great to, we see this a lot, like on LinkedIn, as far as recommendations, but it's great to hear it from someone who's actually using it, especially in a worldwide environment. So Roseanne, you spoke a little bit about voice and how you're using it, especially in the automation era. Can you tell us, maybe dive a little bit deeper into how you're using voice specifically?
Well, specifically, again, one of the ways we're doing that is with one of our uninterruptible power supplies, so that's voice activated. And we're exploring other ways now that we could actually tap into that with some of our other products. But the main product is this Wiser product,
Okay.
just a home automated solution with compatible with the different user interfaces.
So is it compatible with both Google, Amazon?
Yeah.
And so I guess just trying to understand from a consumer's perspective, this is basically me walking in my home and
Exactly.
talking about
Turn the lights on.
turn the lights on, turn the temperature to
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Great. Anything to add to that thing?
I mean, just
Voice?
the Alexa skill that we're working on.
Okay.
But we don't have any voice-enabled search or anything like that yet.
Okay. But how close is it to your radar?
It's definitely on our roadmap. We know,
Okay.
it's just, that level of expectations of consumers, and even though our members are, probably average age is about 45 to 50, those are actually Gen X folks. So they're pretty, hip on, my mom's 70 almost, and she's on Snapchat. So, you can't say that older folks are not into technology. They're, they're learning it just as quick. They might not be, necessarily the early adopters, but some of them are. And you can't just say, oh, our members aren't doing that yet. We need to be ahead of the curve. So we definitely have it on our roadmap.
That's so great to hear, because how many times do we hear, our demographic is older, so we're not using that technology yet because they're older. That's false, basically. Okay, anyone out here have some expertise in voice or have a question specifically or about some of this?
Yes, I have a question.
Hold up.
I have a question for Roseanne, specifically to video and about bite sizes. So I work for GlaxoSmithKline and I do video as well. So our topics tend to be kind of heavy, like you mentioned. Not technical, but more in the medical space. So we certainly do long videos of about an hour, and we're trying to find what's the right time frame to bite size them. So what have you found that worked for you guys?
For social media, for example?
Any, I would say.
Yeah, a lot of what we do when we do splice the videos is, usually for social media, I don't think we go over 30 seconds, for example. That seems to be the attention span that's more suitable on social media. So, but you could really just, try, you have, again, a different audience, so it may require a more technical explanation, and they might be more attentive to something that's a little bit longer than that, even on that kind of a platform. So I think, one thing that I can say that we do have the great flexibility within our organization to do is to try a variety of things. And especially when you work in such a big corporate organization, we do, we try things, they didn't work. Nobody gets fired for it. So we kind of have to have that safety net type of culture, I would say, along with that. But when you're in that specific space, knowing who the audience is, we haven't really gotten into personas or journeys yet, but I'm sure, you know your persona, who you're speaking to. Try it. See if that 5-minute video will work for you. But that's how I would address that.
Okay. Faith, anything to
Yeah,
add
just
to
to
that?
add, even though we're vacation.
Yeah, wow. Question for Faith, as well as I guess I could give you a snippet of something we're doing a little bit different too. Faith, I'm curious. I work in the hospitality industry as well. I'm down at a resort in southern Florida. I know you mentioned you guys are piggybacking a lot of your retargeting as well as your display and search from within your CRM. I'm just curious whether you'd be willing to disclose, for example, what CRM outlet you guys are running with, what CRM provider, as well as have you run into any roadblocks in terms of campaign optimization when you're piggybacking within your CRM? That's a curiosity, but I had something as well I could divulge in terms of something we're doing different.
So in terms of, using our CRM list to find our members and, market to them online, we use Salesforce Marketing Cloud.
Okay.
So we have the Marketing Cloud, which started with Exact Target and now has a full suite of technology and use a product called Ad Studio that, because our list is already there in many instances for the email to go out, we're able to use Ad Studio to securely get our list over to Google and Facebook and our DSP and all our other advertising channels. And in some cases, we do either using an onboarder like LiveRamp or do direct if they have a secure method of getting that list to them.
And you had mentioned you had something else to...
Yeah. You know, something we did as a resort, we kind of picked this up from Royal Caribbean. So sorry, Royal Caribbean, and you guys are tied to them.
I cruised with them last week or 2 weeks ago.
Awesome. Yeah, a few things to say there. You know, one of the things we're trying to do, and obviously it's the reason everybody's in this room, is trying to figure out how to get ahead of the curve, and obviously video's outperforming. We're trying to figure out what types of video are outperforming. One of the things we've noticed at Royal Caribbean Zone, which is pretty cool, we tested it and it way outperformed its over-indexing, is obviously like newer forms of video content, and we're launching those platform direct as soon as these platforms open up to permit it. So for example, like obviously 360 video has been around for a while. A lot of companies are starting to experiment with 360 video, 360 tours. Obviously, you guys are working on it already. We're working on live 360 video drone shot of entertainment on site. So we do we bring in like national artists to do performances, and we're live 360 video streaming those performances through social, through website direct, and we're piggybacking our paid budgets on top of getting that out at mass right when we launch. So like just trying to bring in newer forms of content tied with live stream. I'm excited to hear from, obviously, Herbalife talking about live content a little bit later.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things we're doing. It's not just video anymore. It's like what type of video and how are you getting it out efficiently. So that's one of the things we're doing. Obviously, 360 content's over indexing. It still has that wow factor. But in terms of platform direct, obviously optimizing for efficiency is just one of the things we're doing to kind of separate ourselves.
And then you also repurpose that live video?
Yeah, obviously, like we post-produce that, so we're upgrading that content post-production so that we can then come up with a far more professional version. We're obviously launching that through YouTube, etc., and platforms further down the road. But yeah, it's just one thing.
Awesome. Anyone else using live drone content? Anyone? Or anyone else have something to say about content? Yeah.
Hi, I have a question for Faith, and it's just through personal experience with a competitor brand to you where I'm aggressively targeted by their vacation group. How do you guys leverage, or do you treat, hotel guests and target hotel guests differently than your vacation offering, and how do you leverage information from your hotel guests, I guess, to figure out how to target on the vacation side of the business?
So we actually don't own any properties. We're the original sharing economy. So we enable folks to exchange their timeshare, but we don't actually own any of the timeshare, and we don't run any of the properties. So when it comes to on property, we don't have a lot of legs there in terms of influence or even adding services or that sort of thing.
Or access to that content.
So we are closed membership, but in terms of folks who are your customers and who are your guests versus prospects, absolutely, we have platinum members and tiers of members and segmenting the message through personas, understanding how they are different versus a new member and how we speak to them. Absolutely, we do treat them very differently.
Thank you.
Sure.
You can hold on for a minute to that. Enjoy it. Okay, so speaking of that, we've already kind of jumped into personalized data-driven marketing. Roseanne, maybe talk a little bit about your experiences in that aspect.
Yep, so we actually leverage a number of different tools to help us with our data analytics. So, for example, like a lot of other folks, leverage Google Analytics on our blog sites. We leverage WordPress. We also, for our social media, leverage a tool called Sprinkler, which helps us disseminate all of our social content throughout our entire organization. We also look at things like everybody else: downloads, landing page hits, views, and then we also leverage a number of internal dashboards. So a lot of this is, we take information, analytics and data from different points. We try to synthesize all the information internally within our team. And then one example I could give you about how we've actually leveraged this to tie it back, and improve our messaging is a lot of what our team does is focus predominantly on campaign development and then content development, a lot of that content being what we call high-value content. But specifically, before rolling out a full campaign, we're going to maybe use our social media to generate some specific messages using some specific images. We might test that in 2 different ways on different platforms and see which type of messages, which type of platforms, which type of images work best and get the best kinds of results. And then we'll incorporate those winners, so to speak, into our actual campaign and roll out the rest of the campaign that way. So.
Yeah, okay, good. Faith, you had mentioned the deposit journey, and I think this will be helpful to the couple of questions. What are you moving towards to trigger the member journeys?
So we're using Journey Builder, which is part of, I sound like a Salesforce commercial. Sorry about that. It's part of the Salesforce Marketing Cloud, and allows us to enable multi-channel journeys from email to digital advertising to mobile messaging, SMS, and push. And what we're doing is, we're in the early stages still. We've had email triggers forever, but now taking those up a notch or 2 and adding, multi-channel journeys. So pretty much with regard to data-driven marketing, everything, all of our marketing is data-driven. Because we have that closed audience, we're only finding our members. That's the first level of data, but then understanding their behaviors, their persona, where they are in the life cycle, all that is critical to making sure you're getting that right message at the right time. And with regard to the deposit journey, just to let you understand what deposit is, we're not a bank. But because you have to exchange, some of our members have to deposit their week in order to get one out. So some of our call to actions is to get them to deposit. And we have now, in theory, when I say, oh yeah, we use our data, but we don't always have perfect data. Sometimes we have holes in the data, right? So when we ask them to deposit and they're not depositing, part of the journey in one of the sequences of emails and touch points is to ask them, why aren't you depositing? And we have a form that captures that with different answers, and depending on that answer, it's going to change the journey. Sometimes we're going to stop bothering you. If you say, I sold this, or I'm renting it out this year. So making it more conversational as well, to make sure that, we're giving the messages that make the most sense, as well as, it's all about value. When they feel that you're giving that, it's an exchange of value.
Mm-hmm.
So folks will give you information about themselves when they feel that they're getting value back. So by telling us, more about your deposit situation, helping us to personalize that experience and give you the right amount of content or messaging at the right time, that's one example.
Okay, and when you say that a member tells you they've sold the property, you're using human conversation for that, right? Human to human conversation.
We do it both in the call center.
Okay.
So it gets, if they're on the call and the call guide asks them, and we do record that disposition of, what their answer is. And then on the marketing cloud side, it is a form that they fill out multiple choice, and that goes to the same place that gets synced up. So that we also have Service Cloud, across all the clouds, we're making sure that that member is getting contacted the right amount of times or not at all for that specific message.
Okay, good. Roseanne, anything to add to that?
No, I think it sounds great, actually.
Okay. Anyone in here want to talk about anything different as far as personalized data-driven marketing? Any other instances or examples? Okay. Pass the box, please. Thank you. We kind of talked about this. Okay, so understanding blockchain. Do we have any blockchain experts in the room? Yeah, me neither. So this is something we're all learning, just starting to hear about a little bit. So I do have a quick video. It is technical, but it is the least technical video that we could find to kind of explain blockchain and just kind of talk about that a little bit. Do we have that audio queued up? Okay.
Blockchains are incredibly popular nowadays. What is a blockchain? How do they work? What problems do they solve? And how can they be used? Like the name indicates, a blockchain is a chain of blocks that contains information. This technique was originally described in 1991 by a group of researchers and was originally intended to timestamp digital documents so that it's not possible to backdate them or to tamper with them, almost like a notary. However, it went by mostly unused until it was adapted by Satoshi Nakamoto in 2009 to create the digital cryptocurrency Bitcoin. Now, a blockchain is a distributed ledger that is completely open to anyone. They have an interesting property. Once some data has been recorded inside a blockchain, it becomes very difficult to change it. So how does that work? Well, let's take a closer look at a block. Each block contains some data, the hash of the block, and the hash of the previous block. The data that is stored inside the block depends on the type of blockchain. The Bitcoin blockchain, for example, stores the details about a transaction in here, such as the sender, receiver, and the amount of coins. A block also has a hash. You can compare a hash to a fingerprint. It identifies a block and all of its contents, and it's always unique, just as a fingerprint. Once a block is created, its hash is being calculated. Changing something inside the block will cause the hash to change. So in other words, hashes are very useful when you want to detect changes to blocks. If the fingerprint of a block changes, it no longer is the same block. The third element inside each block is the hash of the previous block. And this effectively creates a chain of blocks, and it's this technique that makes the blockchain so secure. Let's take an example. Here we have a chain of 3 blocks. As you can see, each block has a hash and the hash of the previous block. So block number 3 points to block number 2, and number 2 points to number 1. Now the first block is a bit special. It cannot point to previous blocks because, well, it's the first one. We call this block the Genesis block. Now let's say that you tamper with the second block. This causes the hash of the block to change as well. In turn, that will make block 3 and all following blocks invalid because they no longer store a valid hash of the previous block. So changing a single block will make all following blocks invalid. But using hashes is not enough to prevent tampering. Computers these days are very fast and can calculate hundreds of thousands of hashes per second. You could effectively tamper with a block and recalculate all the hashes of other blocks to make your blockchain valid again. So to mitigate this, blockchains have something that is called proof of work. It's a mechanism that slows down the creation of new blocks. In Bitcoin's case, it takes about 10 minutes to calculate the required proof of work and add a new block to the chain. This mechanism makes it very hard to tamper with the blocks because if you tamper with one block, you'll need to recalculate the proof of work for all the following blocks. So the security of a blockchain comes from its creative use of hashing and the proof of work mechanism. But there is one more way that blockchains secure themselves, and that is by being distributed. Instead of using a central entity to manage the chain, blockchains use a peer-to-peer network and everyone is allowed to join. When someone joins this network, he gets a full copy of the blockchain. The node can use this to verify that everything is still in order. Now, let's see what happens when someone creates a new block. That block is sent to everyone on the network. Each node then verifies the block to make sure that it hasn't been tampered with. And if everything checks out, each node adds this block to their own blockchain. All the nodes in this network create consensus. They agree about what blocks are valid and which aren't. Blocks that are tampered with will be rejected by other nodes in the network. So to successfully tamper with a blockchain, you'll need to tamper with all the blocks on the chain, redo the proof of work for each block, and take control of more than 50% of the peer-to-peer network. Only then will your tampered block become accepted by everyone else. So this is almost impossible to do. Blockchains are also constantly evolving. One of the most recent developments is the creation of smart contracts. These contracts are simple programs that are stored on the blockchain and can be used to automatically exchange coins based on certain conditions. More on smart contracts in a later video. The creation of blockchain technology piqued a lot of people's interest. Soon others realized that this technology could be used for other things, like storing medical records, creating a digital notary, or even collecting taxes. So now you know what a blockchain is, how it works on a basic level, and what problems it solves. Want to learn how you can implement a simple blockchain in JavaScript? Then check out this video here. And as always, thank you very much for watching.
Okay, so you feel like a blockchain ninja?
Blockchain?
So we had, on the cruise, we had someone with IndyHash who was using, there was a company called IndyHash, and they were using blockchain and did a pretty good job of explaining how they use it. Companies like Walmart, UPS, FedEx, IBM are all currently using blockchain technology. So it is definitely emerging. Do we have anyone, just curious if we have anyone in the audience that's using or searching for how blockchain could benefit their business? Okay, great. So glad to have you. I can't even tell you. Big pass.
Yeah, go ahead.
Watch your heads.
All right. So this is the
Yep, you're on.
Oh, okay. I mean, I just recently reached out to to a company in California that they're working off the Ethereum network. I don't know how many of you guys are actually know anything about blockchains, but it's like the top three sort of, or the top two different versions, let's say, would be like the Bitcoin version and then the Ethereum version, which is a slightly different way of writing the code. And what they were able to do was somehow make different side chains. So while all these calculations are happening, for Bitcoin, it takes, let's say, 15 minutes for them to approve a transaction, which would be really hard to do in like a world where in programmatic we're doing 100,000 per second. This company figured out how to get around that and make these side chains where all of a sudden you're able to do millions of these calculations in 1 second, and they'll be able to essentially put that onto the programmatic side, so that you'll be able to trust and be able to verify every single transaction that happened, down to like the 1,000th of a CPM, obviously, like to see like, hey, this actual image went to this actual person, and it's noted in the blockchain. So it's not something, it's just another way to sort of like, I guess, help your company stay brand safe, especially, and just really take as much of the fraud out as possible. And obviously that's going to save money. Now you're going to be spending money regardless on that little bit of extra, technology. But I think that in the end, once more companies get involved, then it'll become cheaper and cheaper, and it'll probably be like an addition to programmatic, as we see it now.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. Now, which company were you referring to that's using this?
So they changed their name now. I don't actually even know what they're called. They literally just rebranded themselves like 2 weeks ago. But I'll tell
Okay,
you.
sure. While you're looking for that, so we admitted our lack of knowledge in the blockchain space, but we did also learn that while we were talking about it, how this could be a potential disruptor in your industries. Specifically, Faith had kind of some questions around this. So how do you see it as both a disruptor and a possible benefit?
Yeah, so I mean, to your example that UPS and some other companies are using it already, I'm sure our senior leaders already have their eye on it because, again, it's an exchange company and it's all about just like Bitcoin, give money for the coin. We're giving either money for a vacation or switching to vacations. So from a person-to-person level, someone could create an app tomorrow that enables folks to exchange their vacation, their timeshare
Wow.
vacations.
Yeah, that'd be
And,
awesome.
but of course they need to have a lot of machine learning and smart ways to make sure to monetize the value of each, because the value of Paris is not the same as the value of Branson, for instance.
Sure.
No offense to Branson, but,
Sure.
and
Does
also.
anyone know where Branson, Missouri is? Atlanta, you know where Branson is. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so, it's definitely something we have to keep our eye on, and if not, utilize it ourselves to be
Sure.
smarter and faster
Yeah.
about our exchange network, being aware of that this could possibly happen as a disruptor.
I could see it as a huge benefit to your company because of the whole exchange component. So Roseanne, did you see how this maybe works within Schneider?
This is something we probably would have to explore more deeply.
Yeah.
I mean, this is definitely something brand new to
Sure,
us.
sure.
However, I did use, the technology in general. I used to work for utilities
Oh.
in the New England area. It's, definitely seeing an opportunity with folks generating power back to the grid.
Absolutely.
But just trying, taking that type of technology, how could we apply it within our own organization?
Sure.
Definitely is a challenge going forward.
Okay. Anyone else have anything to ask or add about blockchain? Did you find the oh, we got one over here.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So the company was rebranded as Lucidity. So that's
Lucidity?
Lucid and then Itty. Lucidity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I
You
think I'm
guys
familiar
can
with
check that
Lucid.
out. Yeah, they'll send you like their white paper. You can read it and then really understand how the concept works.
Yeah, it's great just to get some resources on the technology itself. And which company are you with?
I'm with JL Media. By the way, I have no affiliation with Lucidity in any way, shape, or
You were not paid for that endorsement. Okay, if you will, toss it over here to this gentleman. Good catch.
I do got a question for you,
Yeah.
because this whole blockchain thing is really unique. We're launching a product that has basically conversions between different countries. So they deposit something in Bitcoin and might transition over to euro. And from what I understand, it's probably something that we should look into because of
foreign exchange
Yes.
rates and stuff like that. Yeah.
now is there a certain level of traffic or that is this something that we should have initially, or should we wait till the traffic grows or the business go ahead?
I think that if you did it initially and you succeeded, then you make a shit ton of money. But in that sense, it's still, that company, for instance, like was just one of the first. I'm sure that there's more right now that just haven't made it to the news yet. But that's like the first one that's been able to figure out how to successfully get it down to like this, under a second level where you can actually do all of that. Like, for instance, Comcast, I believe, has their division Turnbow. They try to do it, or they're doing it like in beta with television. But that's much easier because you can actually verify that a commercial happens, and you can take 10 minutes to verify that transaction, and then you don't need to worry about make goods or anything like that. It's just bada bing, bada boom, it's done, and it's logged and it's ready to go. For something like that, I think the only you're going to benefit from saving those foreign transaction fees in every single country and the difference in exchange rates. But you also have to worry about, at this point, like some of the currencies that you might be using are fluctuating so much that you're almost it's less riskier to just stay the way you are now, and then in like 2, 3, 4 years time, as all of this kind of stabilizes, then start moving into that. But like I still think that it's something like that you should be open to. But I think going full into it would be really risky.
Okay. I appreciate it, my friend.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, lightly toss it right behind you. Okay.
Hi, my name is Nancy, and I actually work in the financial services industry. But I also like to bring the question back to marketing. Blockchain is something that I've been familiar with, have a high interest in fintech. And it also cascades in other industries like insurance, regulatory tech, you've heard it, insurtech, regtech. But I'd like to bring it back to marketing and how it could be used, blockchain, for our own purposes. It's a distributed ledger, but I'm also hearing about very interesting, projects that the financial services banks, the big banks in Canada, are working on work with CRM, like how we can organize our clients' data in a better way. How can we market to them and create better personas and client journeys? And be interested in whether or not you have an opinion how we can bring blockchain to digital marketing.
Yeah, so, I'm sorry, was that a question?
Yes.
Was it a question or more of a comment to the panel? Okay, so, I mean, again, it is a very new and experienced area for this particular panel. We just wanted to bring it out as an emerging trend and at least kind of dive into it at this conference. But did you have anything maybe to add?
Yeah, we talked about this on our kind of warm-up call about, I haven't seen anything yet in the ad tech and MarTech space, but definitely want to keep an eye on it because there certainly is something there, but.
Yeah, in terms of digital marketing, now, you had mentioned, did you mention, or you talked about it being used in programmatic?
Yeah, that was at least this company's goal, was to get it to a point where, you can use it at a programmatic level where you're doing it, hundreds of thousands per second, and actually being able to verify each of those transactions over and over and over again.
Yeah, so that's probably a great resource. They're getting an amazing plug today, and the company was either Lucid or Lucidity,
Yeah.
something to that effect, okay? And then we can get you or we'll try to get the actual name of the company coming during the break.
Yeah, you guys can tell them Dennis sent you guys.
And where to mail the check, right?
Yeah, JL Media, please.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a break coming up. We're a little bit late, guys, but I do want to touch on this real quick. Influencer marketing obviously is something we're all either in already or definitely diving into, so I don't want to miss this topic, and specifically with the panel that we have, because they do have experience in this. So I wanted to get you guys to kind of quickly talk about how you're using your influencers.
Definitely. So within our organization, because we're heavily B2B and we have this technical type of product that we typically work with a variety of influencers. For example, we have a number of different analysts. These are third-party folks that give their opinions on different technologies and different offers specifically within our industry. Again, because we also manufacture typically electric products, we work heavily with government organizations and government agencies with our codes and standard teams. So these are teams internal to our company that we definitely maintain relationships with them. And then the way that we can connect that back to our digital marketing activities is, for example, one of these types of analysts may put out a piece of what we call high-value content. So some type of report, for example, a 10-page report, let's say. And we can leverage that because about 40 to 50% of the content that we develop is this type of high-value content, but we could license that report from them and then tie an entire suite of promotional assets around that. So blog posts, emails, web banners, things of that nature, and roll that out, especially where it's promoting and speaking specifically to one of our technologies and our offers associated with that technology. And then another way that we're actually using influencers is internally within our own organization, our employees. We have leveraged LinkedIn Elevate, so I don't know if you use that, but that module snaps right into our LinkedIn platform. And our employees are actually invited by one of our senior executives. We found that that is actually a great way to begin the rollout of that type of a program. but leveraging them as influencers and ambassadors through their social network. So the social media team will curate the various content. The actual employees will sign up to which types of content and topics they prefer. And then you just click on the little icon that says LinkedIn Elevate when you sign on to LinkedIn, and you could send that message out to your own network. So it's definitely, it started within our organization as a pilot, and now it is moved further throughout the organization as a full-blown program.
Mhm.
So.
Good. And Faith, you had mentioned your employees on Instagram.
Yes, so one of the great perks of working for a vacation company is we get free week-long stays at resorts. So just this last 12 months, we've begun allowing our employees who are taking some of those resort vacations to take over our stories. So on Instagram, so not content that's going to live there forever, that's only there for 24 hours, but it allows them to, upload authentic moments, and then it disappears. And so if there's any oops or any spellings or anything that, probably wouldn't be, perfectly done, it won't last. But then all the good ones that, out of all of that, we have pinned. So if you want to check out our sad vacations on Instagram, you'll see a bunch of them pinned. And the cruises one was mine from January. So yeah, and our members really relate to it. We got great engagement from it, and we've gotten requests to get more of it. So we've done everything from cruises to Caribbean to Vegas, and we continue to add to our library of kind of UGC, EGC, employee generated content. I just made that up. It's really helping the library. It's authentic, and it's low risk. So.
Yeah. Okay, good. And so anyone want to comment on how they're using influencer marketing? Anyone have anything different, unique? Come on, plug your business. It'll be great. Yes, can we toss to her?
Hey, all right. All right, so I work for a promotional products company, and we have sales reps all over the country that bring us clients and things like that. We've started to use Facebook quite a bit with that group, and they've kind of just naturally turned into influencers for us, because on our Facebook page, they'll do Facebook Lives or whatever, talking about how awesome we are and how much it's easy to work with us. And I think we probably will award them in some way or reward them for some way in helping us do that. But we've really been focusing this past year on trying to have our sales reps help us bring in more sales reps, because they're sharing on Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook all about the different benefits they get from working with us.
Okay, and the name of your company?
Geiger.
Geiger? Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone here in retail or that represents like a fashion brand? Okay, she's like, please don't call me. Okay, if you can somehow get it over to her, I would really like to hear, because it's influencer marketing is so, yeah, you can make it a couple of tosses if you want
Alright,
to.
I'm sending it this way. I wasn't sure you were supposed to get here. Oh.
Okay, you won't break it. So, obviously this is one of the go-to spaces for influencer marketing, because with fashion, you look at, celebrities or influencers. So I was just curious if you could maybe tell us what you're looking to do, or something you're already doing in terms of influencer marketing.
Well, so I work for an agency that's predominantly email marketing, so we work very heavily in Salesforce Marketing Cloud and all the different clouds in the Marketing Cloud. I actually represent a retail customer, and we have two clients that actually really are trying to get using Advertising Studio and Social Studio and Salesforce Marketing Cloud, how to start their influencers, especially if their program is for customers who are older, that's their main target audience, how they find those influencers. I also work with the baby brands where they're constantly plugging their influencers on social media into their emails, so we work very closely with UGC things like that. So really how those tie together, not only from the social channels, but in all the other channels and using it across the board, and really vetting those influencers to make sure that, you know, it's representing their brand, you know, is in line with what they're looking for, things like that. So I've just been a part of the strategy of kind of helping find the influencers or starting out in advertising studio and social studio, how they can really start their influencer program in retail. So.
Very good, thank you so much. Have you found any good resources to find these influencers, or is this something that your agency just has to do on its own?
Well, we are not in charge of finding the influencers, but
Okay.
lately I've just been trying to help my customer as we're implementing them and migrating them into the marketing cloud, setting them up on all the different platforms, and part of that is using Social Studio to really find those influencers. So within the Social Studio dashboard, there is an influencer rating, if you will.
Okay.
And in there, it will rate your influencers in relation to your industry. I always say use that with discretion and with a grain of salt, because you're also relying on a computer to determine who your best influencer is. So my strategy to my clients was always, you know, look through their feed, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, things like that. Really vet those people out, and if that is somebody who is in line with your messaging, in line with your audience, reach out to them, have that conversation, see what they would be willing to do for you. But really using Instagram and Twitter to your own discretion, looking through and really finding that, and not just relying on the Salesforce.
Sure. So does anyone else have any type of unique way they're finding or vetting their influencers? Okay. So kind of back to the guy I met with IndieHash, and they're using blockchain, and one of the ways they're using that is to vet the influencers out there, so you can literally go to within their company, you can choose, you know, the persona or the demographic you're trying to reach, and then they have their algorithms set up to help connect you with influencers. And what was interesting is, you know, they were talking about the differences between celebrities and the people they target, I think, have less than 5,000 followers typically, and that is because they have more engagement typically, and they're less fake followers. Okay, just promise, last minute here, and then I'm going to let you go. AI, artificial intelligence, is something that we wanted to address, and so just real quickly, if you could kind of tell us how you're using that in the global space of Schneider.
Sure. Well, EcoStructure is our trademarked IoT, Internet of Things enabled, open and interoperable architecture and platform, and this is a pretty good-sized platform. It connects our products, our customers' products to that, gathers the customer's data as a result of that, and through that we're able to provide and deliver more value as a result. So that's a specific solution that we have in the marketplace. And now going back to our blockchain discussion, now I've got my thinking cap on for
So
that.
things are connected.
So yeah, so because
Adoption.
everything is so connected, there may be a way that we could leverage that there. So,
Okay.
and then marketing automation.
Okay, and just lastly, anyone in AI marketing specifically, experts in AI marketing in the room? Okay, and Faith, anything that you would add that your company's using in terms of AI?
Personally, for me, the thing that I'm most excited about with regard to AI is data-driven algorithms for attribution.
Yeah.
So we're currently onboarding with Google Analytics 360, and they have a data-driven algorithmic model for attribution. So that's huge because, you know, I've always called attribution the frenemy of marketers, because you want to be friends with them, you want to love them, but you can't 100% trust them. And you really want to, because it's just so complicated, and the journey is so complicated, it's not linear by any means. It's all over the place, and you need something that's going to be able to take that data and make sense of it. And my journey, Roseanne's journey, Jeff's journey are totally different, and to say that your email was worth 20% across the board, all the email touch points, doesn't make any sense. So using artificial intelligence and machine learning to crack that nut and really understand how to better allocate our dollars is critical. And then the other thing about machine learning is, that I feel that the future, my prediction, is that the future of, having a database, a data warehouse that has all this data, that you pull lists and there's a team that pull lists, is going to go by the wayside. DMPs and, being able to, on the fly, have all this data at the fingertips and be it generated automatically on different segments and people that you don't have to think about, okay, what kind of query do I want to do? It's already there for you. It's saying these people are ripe for vacation or this kind of vacation based on all the data, based on internal sources and external sources. So very, very excited about that, because sometimes by the time you get that list or that report, whatever it may be, insights or people to market to, it's just so out of date. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, I was pretty excited to hear from Google this week. I don't know if you saw it, but they're rolling out the Google Assistant for your phone. So, I mean, literally you can schedule like a haircut, spa appointment. I mean, someone's literally going to call the location and actually set the appointment for you on your behalf. And I was like, wow, personal assistant, right? So, all right, so we did just kind of touch on those topics, but the purpose here was really to kind of talk about emerging and top digital trends for 2018.